So Youth Genesis started life as the Brixham Church's Youth Work Project in 2007 as a way for churches to serve the needs of local young people facing issues such as bullying, low self-esteem, low confidence, low aspirations, substance misuse, unhealthy lifestyles, relationships, and unemployment. So due to austerity in funding and cuts to youth services, Youth Genesis has continued to grow and now work all across Devon, using our approach of working with communities to recruit local people and training them as volunteer youth workers to create a sustainable provision for young people within their own communities. So we are a faith-based organisation. So Youth Genesis promotes a Christian ethos. The aim of our projects and activities is to prioritise the needs of young people in the community through social action. So we are faith-based, not faith-biased, meaning that we share Christian values such as inclusion, happiness, peace, patience, kindness, justice, trust and gentleness, and self-control through providing a safe space for young people to access support. So various ways like this pre-COVID, so there's various ways that we were reaching out to serve the needs of local young people within their communities across Devon. So some of the types of work that we usually offer include youth drop-in sessions, attached street-based project work, schools work, and targeted one-to-one support. But due to COVID-19, we had to close all of our provisions following government guidance and guidance from the National Youth Agency. So we began quickly during the pandemic. So we had to prepare quite quickly to launch virtual support. But before launching our virtual support to young people, we had to identify the best ways to do this. So to identify the best platform to use to engage with young people, we consulted young people via SurveyMonkey, so young people aged 13 to 18, to identify the best platform to use to offer support during this pandemic where we could no longer offer the face-to-face support. And that was really helpful and useful and helped shape our COVID-19 response. We also had to update our safeguarding policy and audit our safeguarding procedures to fit in line with our virtual support that we're offering, and update our social media policy as we were changing the way that as an organisation we'd be using social media. And we also had to update our child protection guidance on social networking, as it is really important for us that we continue to safeguard not only young people but ourselves as well whilst engaging with young people virtually. So adapting our approach during COVID-19. So to continue to support young people, we adapted our approach to work, to youth work, and launched the following virtual support. So we launched Text a Youth Worker, Message a Youth Worker, Virtual Youth Spaces, Parent Access, and Empower Pack. So I'll talk a bit more in detail about those in a few minutes. So we promoted all of our virtual services through social media, local newsletters and papers, as well as contacting and connecting with local schools, so that they could let parents know of their students as well, of the additional support that was available to them. And we also shared it with partners and key groups and organisations within the local communities. So the virtual support has been a lifeline to some young people that we've been supporting who have found the restrictions difficult due to their home life and mental health issues. And through providing support them through Monday to Friday, from 4 till 6, young people have had someone outside of their bubble that they can speak to and access support, and be signposted to a range of different activities or services that could further support them with the issues that they were facing. And I'll talk a bit more about the issues that we found that young people were facing a bit later. So we created Text a Youth Worker. So this was in response to consultation with young people. We created Text a Youth Worker for young people aged 10 to 19, so that young people who do not have access to or use social media still had access to support from our youth workers. In addition to this as well, we weren't able to use Facebook due to Facebook restrictions, weren't able to engage with young people under the age of 13. So the Text a Youth Worker provided that support to young people that were under the age of 13. We also created Message a Youth Worker. So in response to the consultation that young people completed, we identified that Facebook was the best platform to use to provide virtual support to young people. So Monday to Friday from 4 till 6, young people could message designated youth workers via Facebook Messenger to access support and signposting around issues that they may be facing. Although the challenge with this was that it was only for over 13s, and we could not actively encourage and engage with young people that were under the age of 13. We could only signpost them through our Text A youth worker support. So following on from that, we also had created online youth spaces for young people. These were also created, these were via Facebook as well. So in late April, we launched our online youth spaces to create a safe space for young people to connect with others and access support from youth workers and engage in online workshops and around issues that young people were facing, such as online safety, poor emotional health, loneliness and boredom. So during these sessions, we would suggest ideas of things for young people to do and create challenges and share workshops and activities to help increase young people's resilience during this time. We also use the online spaces to host quizzes and brain teasers and challenges to encourage young people to connect with each other, because we were finding that a lot of young people were starting to become disconnected from their peers. So the way we created the online youth spaces, so there were a closed youth group on Facebook where only young people could invite their peers, or our youth workers had to invite young people. And each online youth group had a set of ground rules that young people had to agree to before they were allowed to join the group. And also it would be at a set time, and it was very important to maintain those boundaries and make sure that we didn't post anything outside of those hours. However, the difficulty was that, again, because we were using Facebook, we weren't able to engage with young people under the age of 13 on these. So young people that were under 13 were missing out on connecting with their peers. So what we began to do was to explore other ways we could engage with young people and host an online youth space. And we found Microsoft Teams was the best platform to use for that, because there was no lower age limit, and it just created a space for all young people to come together. However, the only challenge we found with using Microsoft Teams was that young people were unable to look back at what had been posted around workshops and activities. Once the session had ended, young people couldn't see anything anymore. So that was a challenge for us on getting that out there. So we also created parent access in response to COVID-19, as we recognised that this was going to be a difficult time for parents and young people. So we decided to launch parent access so that parents had a safe space to talk to someone, to be listened to, access tools to support their child with any issues that they may be facing, and a safe space to be signposted to other organisations that could offer support to their child during the time. But it was very important to us that parents understood and understood that we recognise our responsibilities to safeguard the welfare of young people, and if we had any concerns, we would have to pass those on. Parent access did work quite well, however, it didn't work as well as what we thought it would, and that is just due to in the local areas there's quite a lot of already helplines, and they were being fed through different systems to different organisations. We also created Empower Packs. So these were to support young people who were facing technology inequality, those who were not on Facebook, and young people who needed additional support. So we created and delivered Empower Packs to young people all over Devon. So the Empower Packs included like a broad range of activities for young people to help generate ideas of things to do, ways to improve their emotional well-being through self-care, and where to access support during these strange times. The Empower Packs included activities that promoted self-care through worksheets and activities such as emotional health worksheets, 30 days daily activities, a mindfulness jar, grounding and calming strategies, mindfulness colouring in, and where they could access support within their local areas. They also included a notebook for young people to write down their thoughts and feelings, or draw their feelings, colouring in pens, a deck of cards, a stress ball and a chocolate bar. Our Impact Packs were really gratefully received by young people who gave really positive feedback on them because they felt valued, that they were still being thought about during this time. And parents also welcomed the Empower Packs, with one parent commenting that the Empower Pack was just what their child needed, as they were finding this time really difficult. So through our online virtual support, we identified the issues that young people were facing, such as bereavement, family breakdown, and the majority of the time this was due to young people living in overcrowded houses, relationships, isolation and loneliness, poor mental health and well-being, a lack of safe spaces, education and technology inequality. So we supported young people through our discussions and workshops around self-care, emotional well-being, and mindfulness, and a broad range of other activities, and also signposted young people to other services and organisations that could offer more specific support to young people outside of our virtual support hours, because we were only offering support for 2 hours a day, Monday to Friday. It's important that young people were aware of additional support that was available to them. Also, whilst virtually supporting young people with challenges that they were facing, we also had to ensure that our safeguarding policies and procedures were being followed when we had safeguarding concerns with young people, as we're starting to see now an increase in safeguarding concerns are starting to rise. I've just included COOF. So COOF is a free online mental health counselling service, and they've identified growing issues for young people during COVID-19 compared to this time last year. So as you can see here, sleep issues, sadness and depression, and child sexual exploitation has increased, whereas exam stress and pressures of aspirations and bullying has decreased significantly. So as we move forward, we believe that we'll be seeing more safeguarding concerns as we begin to reconnect with young people who may have lost contact with, as young people begin to re-enter their safe spaces after the summer break. This information will help prepare us to support young people with any long-term effects that COVID-19 may have and start future planning. So we faced a few challenges. The first one was adapting to virtual support. It was very quickly that we needed to do this, but we needed to make sure that we were doing it correctly. So it did take some time. It took a few weeks to be able to provide that virtual support. And engaging young people online, we found this was quite a big challenge. We thought it would be quite easy to engage with young people online, but it was complete opposite. It was more challenging engaging with young people online than it was face-to-face. Using Facebook, learning how to use virtual platforms such as like Microsoft Teams, hosting an online youth space. I don't know if anyone uses Microsoft Teams, but it can be quite clunky sometimes. And if you're not very tech savvy like myself, it takes a while to kind of get around how to use it. So that was a bit challenging. Technology inequality, trying to keep in contact with young people who weren't online and who didn't have access to technology and who were struggling. And future planning as well, planning moving forward, coming out of lockdown really was very challenging because the guidance was very few and far between, or was very worded and was difficult. So the way that we've tried to overcome our challenges were connecting with other community groups and organisations, and this was key. It's enabled us to share learning and gain knowledge and understanding of virtual support and the current issues that young people were facing, and as well sharing learning around the difficulties that people were having around engaging young people online. So we've worked with partnerships to identify what issues we were seeing and what we believed the issues will be after the pandemic, so that we can begin to put in place, put into place to work together to be proactive rather than reactive. So the partnerships have been really positive and has enabled us all to come together to share the learning to best serve the needs of young people within the local communities. It's also created opportunities to work together with other organisations in the future and create more opportunities for young people coming out of lockdown, and the way that we can provide more opportunities. Post-COVID, so following guidance from the government and the National Youth Agency and our insurers, we're beginning to carry out detached youth work again to provide face-to-face support to young people and to begin to build relationships with the local community again. So to begin street-based youth work, we had to update our risk assessments, complete COVID-19 infection and control training, identify what PPE our street-based team need, and identify what street-based team are able to do in terms of engagement. So we started off for July of just having 2 street-based teams, and as we move into August, we'll be relaunching a lot of our provisions as street-based throughout August to provide face-to-face support. Our online youth spaces will come to an end, apart from one where we won't be offering street-based provision, but we also will be starting up a few new street-based projects as well within new areas that we've not worked in before in August. So it'll be a very different time, but it'll be very interesting to see how that will work out during coming out of post COVID-19. But as we move forward, this is our plan, and we're not able, just due to restrictions in social distancing, we're not looking at reopening any of our youth drop-in sessions until after October half term. And this is just because we think social distancing will be too challenging and the weather will still be quite nice, so we can continue doing street-based provisions. But thank you, that's it.
Thank you so much, Tina. That was absolutely fascinating. We've got one question which we'll just pick up now. And Zara has asked, did you find many young people who could not access due to tech inequality? And how did you find out about these young people?
So yes, we did. Some of the young people we already knew from the provisions that we were already working in. We knew those young people didn't have access to technology or laptops or internet. And this is because in some of our youth drop-ins, we have homework clubs for young people who don't have the technology at home to do that. But we also connected with schools who distributed our Empower Packs to young people to provide the additional support. So it is more linking up with local schools who could identify those young people to give our Empower Packs to.
Okay, John has asked, can you talk a bit more about how you do your street-based stuff? Are there any challenges over the size of groups?
Yeah, so I think at the moment it's like groups of 6. So currently we're just observing. We'll have a few conversations with young people, but we're not engaging in activities that we usually would. It's just conversations only with young people, and we don't discourage young people that are already in groups that are already meeting, but we won't kind of stay with them for long.
That's brilliant, thank you. It's worth also saying that I'm currently in conversations with Youth Genesis about doing a follow-up session to this around street-based children and youth work. So if you're interested in that, please let me know. And yeah, we will be sharing, when we've confirmed everything, we'll be sharing those dates via our newsletter and our social media presence. Brilliant, thank you so much, Tina, and thank you so much for your time today. Tina will be staying around for the Q&A at the end as well. But now we're going to hand over to Sarah.
Hello, I'm just going to try and share my screen. Can you give me a thumbs up if you can see it? I just understand what Tina's said about you. It all disappears. Okay. Oh, my button's on. There we go. So I just wanted to kind of tell you a little bit about the context of where I am, because I think that explains a lot of the decisions we make. So I'm a part-time children and families worker, and I am employed by the West Devon Methodist Circuit. And rather than saying West Devon Methodist Circuit Children, Youth and Families team, we're called the Infusion team. So if you ever see Infusion, that is who we are. We have about 15 churches currently open, well, not open, but 15 churches, but we have about 17 communities that are in our area, from villages to towns, and to the middle of nowhere. And I'm also a part-time primary school teacher, and this will probably become apparent, but I am a teacher within a federation of 6 schools that our circuit is in, which makes schools work very, very handy. So if at any point you think, oh, well, that was quite lucky, that we definitely have a door open and an opportunity at the moment. So that will be why we do quite a fair bit of schools work at the moment. I grew up within the circuit, so I've been here all my life, but I have been employed by them now for nearly 3 years. So yeah, 3 years this summer. And I am a farmer's daughter, but definitely not a farmer. So I deal with a lot of young people who love tractors, but I know nothing about them. Just kind of a bit of a health warning. I've found, and I've had lots of people who said as well, they've gone on to webinars and to learning nuggets, just in general, and you can come away thinking, oh, there's lots of good ideas, and why haven't I been doing that? And it's been a bit of an emotional roller coaster for everybody. And I just wanted to say that I've got ideas, and you'll see as we go through, that have worked, and ideas that have absolutely flopped. And so I just kind of wanted to share that, and I found personally quite difficult. I did a lot of toddler group work prior to lockdown, and I've lost contact with the majority of people in that area just because their routine and lifestyle has completely changed, and that's a challenge at the moment. And I'm currently in a position where it's been suggested that I'm unlikely to be doing anything normal for a while. I mean, I'm kind of looking towards Christmas, because it's children and toddlers. It's a very different ball game. So I'm going to talk you through the things we've been doing. So Sunday Slot is our kind of children's Sunday school. It started as for the churches in the area and the ecumenical partners that we have in the area. And it's an online Sunday school, and it's targeted at primary school children. However, the parents have all been staying in, which we love, and we've had teenagers join us and preschoolers attend too. So it's kind of become a bit more of an all-age thing, but we've always kind of advertised it as a primary school targeted, but we adapt it knowing that we've got teenagers and toddlers coming. I've kind of been facilitating it, so I plan and lead the sessions, and I will regularly call round people who participate and just get feedback about how it's working. The resources that I'm using to lead these sessions, I previously, as a Sunday school teacher, we met our Sunday school once a month, so doing a Sunday school every Sunday has become a new thing for me. So to all of you who do it weekly, a round of applause to you. I can't keep up with all the ideas, so I've been using the Roots on the web resources. We do have a paid subscription, but there are free resources too if you are looking for something. They do children's and families free resources. And we've also been using Engage Worship for our storytelling, which Area 52, a lot of Bob Hartman's written stuff is on there, and it's free, and it's based on the lectionary, so that's a good website to look at if you're looking for something exciting and lectionary based. In terms of what's worked, we've had definitely a strong sense of community. So all of these people are from our churches generally across the circuit, and they would have come across each other every now and then, but now they're seeing each other every week. And this sense of community has definitely built. And from having quite a lot of our Sunday school teachers are on this, and we've gone from them having to all run around and prepare every Sunday to actually being able to enjoy time with their kids and exploring faith with their kids, which they've expressed as being quite a nice opportunity, and being able to join in with other families that you're not related to on a Sunday morning. So that's been quite a nice thing for everybody in our area. And it's definitely been more interdenominational. So we have got probably members from 4 Methodist churches there, but we also have members from a Baptist church locally. A lot of our youth and children's work is ecumenical. I'll talk about that a little bit more later on. And the parents have actually said in their feedback that they get to openly discuss faith with their children. It's not just a Sunday school teacher they're sent off with and then they come back and they will try and ask them what they've done and the children will go, I don't know. They're actually having, they're exploring it in real time, and the parents kind of said, when you do all age services, occasionally your child will get asked a question and the parent will whisper the answer to the child and the parent will drag the arm up and the child will say the answer, whereas now we kind of actually give them time where they're all muted on the screen and they have time to discuss and think about the questions as a family, and then they feed back, which parents have expressed they've really, really enjoyed and would like to see happen when things return into physical meetings, I suppose. And as I said, one of the challenges is trying to plan something for every Sunday and being creative with the restrictions of Zoom. Roots have been very good and recommended what works on or what they think would work online out of their material and adapting it in Orange. But even then, sometimes you think that's not going to work with a toddler. So yeah, that has definitely been a challenge. And I found that the youth leaders actually enjoy the games just as much as the children. So I thought I would have a go at 2 games with you, very, very briefly, because the youth leaders apparently are more competitive than the children sometimes. So what we quite often do, for example, at Easter, is we talked about Easter story, and as we went through, we asked them to fetch items. So the first item I would like you to get is something that is wooden. Go, go, go. Who can find the most interesting object that is wooden? Some people just like reaching. Ooh, I love this. You get to see parts of people's houses that you never saw before. And I can't see everybody. Hang on, we're going to have to come out of screen share for the game, I think. Okay, we've got like a mush. We've got a cajon and a mushroom. And Dave, what have you got?
Well, it's something that my dad made, but it's for marking a card game. I can't remember what it was, but it's several years old and slightly warped and bent, really. But
it's cribbage.
But you put matchsticks in there.
Yeah,
as you go. Sorry?
Cribbage.
Yeah, well, no, this is a Devon version of that. It's very specific to our village, I think.
Brilliant. And like I said, you get some interesting objects. Ruth has got a box for cards. The game that I'm terrible at. Okay, and we've got a chair from Helen, and Jonathan's put his down. That's just a piece of bark. Lovely. Okay, and then sometimes, that was the first one, and we've also had a go at games where we've played things like true and false. And we did that particularly when we were looking at Thomas and the idea of doubting, and it was, do you believe or not believe was the kind of link. But we would ask questions and we keep the children on mute so that the families can do what the families are doing. We're not invading their personal conversations, because you can sometimes, you don't want everybody talking at once. And the children will just call random things out occasionally. But we would ask, for instance, thumbs up, thumbs down, true or false, a duck's quack doesn't echo. It's true, a duck's quack doesn't echo. Who knew, hey? And my second one is Snow White was Walt Disney's favourite animated heroine. Oh, we've got mostly trues are in the middle. Well, it was false. It was actually Cinderella. Ruth got very excited by that. Her Disney knowledge is obviously brilliant. So those are the kind of things that we do with the young people, or the children and the young people. And as I've just demoed, we quite often will go for actions rather than sound effects, but ask the children to do a crazy wave when they want to talk, just so we've only got one person talking at a time. Now I've got to try and share my screen again. There we go. So we then had Pause for Parents, which Tina has actually said something they've done similarly. So it was a drop-in session for parents 3 times a week, and it was an opportunity to chat, or we advertised it through the schools a little bit, that as a teacher I could advise if you were really, really stuck on something with the home learning. I facilitated it through just being available and advertising. In terms of what worked, it was easy and accessible to a large proportion of parents we would have been seeing previously, and there wasn't much preparation needed. And I'll talk about the challenges in a second, but it was never time wasted, as calls, it can be open, and if nobody pops in, it's easy to be multitasking at the same time. So it was a nice, easy way of being available to people if they need you. Challenges, we haven't had much attendance to that. A few people have dropped in during lockdown. However, we decided to keep the service open and available, as we just think it's important to have it available to those who want to access it when they want it. Those few will want it at certain points, and it's okay that that's not all the time. So that was kind of our offer for parents. Now, ARC Week was something we did in half term, and it was a bit of a tester to see what could we do for Holiday Club. I'd got 2 or 3 ideas lined up for online Holiday Club, and I wanted to kind of see what the interaction would be. So it was a challenge week where we asked children and young people to have a go at these 4 challenges to show random acts of kindness to people, and they were all to do with the idea of caring. So I just had to come up with the challenges, manage the social media posts and stories, and share people's images, obviously with consent. And we had some great imagination. So for challenge 2, which was Wednesday and Thursday, care for the environment, and they had to find an object in your house that you're going to throw away and find a way to reuse it. We had a family take an old cabinet and turn it into bird boxes. So we had those who engaged with it. There was really a lot of imagination, which was great to see, and they really enjoyed that. And it achieved some joy for those communities joining in. But as I said, we found with that, and we did offer prizes, which we posted out, we only had 2 to 3 families engage, which was at the time like, what can I do to get it out there more? And I don't like sharing things too much on Facebook, but I thought we're going to do it once or twice, and this on public and community group pages. And again, there wasn't much engagement. So for holiday clubs, we would normally do a tour around our circuit the same day with free choice activities, so that if they wanted to come to more than one day in different locations, they could. And we would be full every single time with about 50 kids at each venue. So this was kind of me trying to work out whether that group of people who we don't necessarily see regularly but attend our holiday clubs would engage with something online. And the general feedback I got, and I did speak to people as well, is that during the holidays the parents wanted a break. So we've used that to think about how we are running holiday clubs, which we'll get onto in a second. Creative Station. So the Creative Station are activity packs for children based on Bible stories. So I've been writing and preparing packs, and I've actually got one here that I haven't delivered yet. So you get in your bag, so we just bought paper bags. I can't see myself, so hopefully you can see this. Paper bags, we stuck stickers on them, and you get a piece of paper with a QR code, which we'll look at a bit more in a minute, and then some images, some reflections. All of this will be available to you in a second. And then on the back, there are a load of ideas of crafts and activities for you to do with images and websites to link in and songs. And then in the bag, you obviously get some sweeties. Although not all the parents were grateful for the Haribo if their children don't do well on food colouring. Then we had lots of paper. We found lots of families, especially at the start, were struggling for resources like paper, even for home learning. So that was quite handy. Occasionally there'll be something printed. So in this one, they make a party hat. So the template is on cards and in there. And then there's pipe cleaners for a ring and pom-poms, party poppers. My favourite thing is the multicoloured elastic. I got very excited about that when I found that. And chalk and buttons. So there's everything you nearly need in there. We don't provide the pens, the paper. Sorry, we do provide the paper. We don't provide the pens, the scissors, the glue. We kind of hope families would have that. And occasionally, so this one also had the suggestion of Play-Doh, so we gave them a recommended recipe and a biscuit craft, but we made sure there were still 3 or 4 crafts that the resources were in the bag for. We don't just want to give them something they've got to go and find all the resources for. So that's Creative Station. So I've been writing the packs and consulting with local churches as my aim was I didn't want it to come from Infusion, or I didn't want it to come just from one church. I wanted it to be something the entire Christian community were behind. And so we've contacted all the churches within the communities we are distributing to, and then put at the bottom that it is their churches together that are supporting it, just because we feel that actually at this time they need to see a united front, rather than everybody doing their own thing. What's worked well, so we've had 8 stations of 25 delivered in Hull so far, and we've had 3 stations once lockdown relaxed slightly and I couldn't go out as much because I'm asthmatic, so we started delivering them to Hatherley once we could go out a bit more, and they've had 3 stations of 30 so far. And parents have been able to collect them easily and are able to use them when they need it. So when it's bad weather, they don't, or when it's good weather, they don't have to be thinking, oh, I've got to do this now because it's available now. They can save it up for 2 weeks before the next one comes out and use it when they need a time filler. And we've now had online reach to more communities. So we've also made a website, which I'll show you in a second, that means that those who we can't get the resources to at the moment can still access the content if they can find their own resources, which we've had a fair bit of uptake on. Challenges, so until we went digital with the QR code for the story, it was really hard to tell how many people were engaging with the story and the videos and all those kind of things, and whether they were just taking the crafts out of the bag and doing them. So that's been kind of hard. You haven't seen the impact in the same way. We've had some families communicate back with their creations and thoughts. A challenge has been buying resources, especially in lockdown. Delivery times took a lot longer, and when you do things last minute like me, it meant it took a while. But we are starting to prepare something for October as a bit of that might be our holiday club in October, or it might be, if there is a second wave, we have a resource prepared to go with the resources in. Whilst we're just quickly talking resources, I'm going to make a few recommendations, because most of you are working for churches or charities, and churches count as a charity. YPO.com is an amazing website. It's what the schools use, but charities can set up an account. And then you get free delivery, or you can have a personal account, but you have to spend £50 a time. And so that they're working slightly slower at the moment. You've got to wait 10 days, and their stocks are quite low at the moment. I'm having to wait until the 10th of August to get paper, so I'm looking elsewhere at the moment. But for general youth work, pens, paper, scissors, very cheap. I think I could, whereas I had to pay £4 for lots and lots of paper clips on Amazon, from YPO I can get a whole pot for £1. they're designed for the bulk. So if you're ever looking for resources like that, ypo.com is really, really helpful. One other question that came up yesterday actually was about copyright with stories. So in a minute you'll see that I've been using Bob Hartman's Rhyming Bible, and I think a few churches haven't been, it's not that you've been caught out, but it's just become more aware as we look at how we work online. You become more aware of all the things, the loops you've got to jump through, the hoops that you've got to meet. And one of the ones that I found out is, right, the school, we've been reading books online, but actually, are we allowed to? So what you need to do, I seek some advice just to share with you, because I didn't want to share something without knowing what we're supposed to do. So if you look at the front, there is a statement of copyright, and there's a website for publishers. Now, I found with Bob Hartman's Rhyming Bible, that publisher and a few others have put out a coronavirus statement for sharing resources. So the publishing company for this one, which is the Society for Promoting Christian Knowledge, have said you can read 3 stories you've got to say who it's written by, whose content it is, and which publisher has allowed you to do that. But they've done a permission statement for churches in general because lots of people want it. So that's how to go about checking copyright if you want to use a book. But yes, the Society for Promoting Christian Knowledge have actually been quite helpful, and that book's been quite great. Another recommendation is Adobe Spark. So it's used for iPad apps, or it's accessible via a website, and you can create a web page without a hassle of a website. It's easy to use, and this is what I use to share my one-off activities online. So each page has Creative Station has a page, and it's a free version available, but the watermarker's at the bottom, but it's very small, and there are limiting styling features, but I don't see that as a problem. You are able to track how many people have viewed it. And then I use the app QR code generator to generate free static QR codes to pop into the bags, like I've shown you. So what you can do, if you want, is get your phone and just scan the QR code, and you can see an example of what we have made. If you want to scan a QR code, Apple users, you just use your normal camera, and we put these instructions on the thing. And if you are an Android user, if you go to, when you speak to Google, I've forgotten what it's called now, but there is an option for Google Lens, and that will equally scan your QR code.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Sarah. And thank you so much for your honesty as well about what's worked and what hasn't worked. So
Can I just cover one more thing, if that's all right?
I'd love you to.
Sorry, I was just letting people look at the QR code. But the last thing I wanted to share with you, or the second to last thing, was the care packages for teachers. So we've managed to supply the teachers within the schools in the area 1 can of pop and 1 bar of chocolate per teacher. So we've budgeted that, and it worked out as something as like 40p per teacher, which in a small school was really cheap. We had to contact the school's Christian communities, as I said, to try and make it ecumenical and come from the Christian community. So the card was signed by everybody who has involvement with the school and is a Christian or a Christian group. Not signed physically, I signed it for them, obviously. And we tried to ensure it was a Church Together initiative. The staff really appreciated it. I've had a lot of emails from head teachers who, I think schools have been busy, and I think schools have had a rough time on the media and how they've been portrayed to have been working during lockdown. And so the gift was quite appreciated. And as a teacher, I know that you get one lot of guidance, and then we've seen a draft, but we're going to see a proper one in September. I personally think it will be a case of we're going to be reading a lot of paperwork for a while, which can be quite downheartening. So they really just did appreciate it, and it's left the doors open to explore ways we can support schools in September, such as Teens Assemblies. But I did it very last minute, so there was a lot of phone calls across 2 days. So if you want to do something like that, because we delivered to about 10 schools, I'd recommend you get a head start. Don't leave it to the week before they need to be delivered. But that's just me and my timing. I'm not very good at it. And then the last one, I said I would talk about holiday clubs. We've decided to do some Creative Station Plus, which, rather than doing a holiday club, which we felt with all the time to put in, wouldn't reach as many as we normally would and the people we normally would, and there being so many great holiday clubs by people like Pulse and Forefront being produced, we thought that actually we need to look at providing a Creative Station Plus that is, it's not offline obviously because you've got the QR code, but the resources are taken to them. So it's going to be a bumper pack to get the children through the summer. We've given them one just at the end of the summer holidays to see them through the first 3 weeks, and then we'll be bringing the bumper pack out in 2 or 3 weeks time. And it'll have 3 or 4 stories worth of videos, activities, crafts and resources. I'm slightly worried the bags aren't big enough, but we'll worry about that when I get to packing them. Again, I've been writing and preparing the resources and speaking to the churches. And like I said, this has come from the kind of test we did at ARC Week of, would it reach the people we intended it to? And we decided this was probably the best way that would have a bigger uptake. It seems to be more popular and the families are finding it more beneficial. And the challenges so far is I actually need to start writing it. I've been preparing for this and haven't started writing it. As I said, I'm not very organised with my time scaling. So that is the challenge for next week. But yeah, that is me done. Thank you, Sharon.
I'm so sorry for interrupting you, Sarah. Thank you so much. That was amazing. And yeah, like I said, thank you so much for your honesty as well. Let me just check the chat a minute. There's no questions, specific questions there. So we're going to hand over to Jonathan now.
Brilliant. Thank you, Sharon. Yeah, it's been really interesting even for me to listen to Sarah and to Tina. And I think a lot of what I was planning to say has already been covered, so I've been adapting what I've written for that as well. But it's really interesting to see how much we actually do together and how similar our ideas were as we were trying to come up with this new form of doing youth work. As I've already mentioned, I've only been in the post for 2.5, 3 months when lockdown started. So it was really difficult for me actually to get to know what the church is all about. I just about learned the young people's names and then I couldn't see them for 5 months, 4 or 5 months. And so it's been quite an interesting and probably quite different experience for me to do youth work online. My job as a children and youth minister is very church-based. So again, it's very different to both Sarah and Tina's work in a way that I've got several sets group of young people that have been coming to the activities that church has put on for quite a while. And so for me, I think right at the beginning of lockdown, there was always that emphasis that I wanted to keep going with as many things as possible. Thanks to Sarah, really, that I need to say that right here now, I've been able to carry on with a lot of children's work. So the Sunday school slot that Sarah has developed, I've adapted that for a midweek kids session that we've been running. And similar to Sarah, really, we've loved the engagement of families with that. And I think that's a real strength of doing children's work online, that you have the kids in front of the screen, but you also know the parents are somewhere working in the kitchen in the background or are being around in the same room at the same time. So particularly we had an incredible story of one of the kids that has always been coming to our kids club on the Tuesday evening. They're not church family, they're not coming to church, but the girl obviously been engaging with all the songs that we've been singing. The girls enjoyed all the craft activities. And actually through lockdown, parents have learned and picked up on the actions of the children's songs. So we just had our final kids session last week. And for the final song, the parents came in and they danced together with their daughter to that final kids song. And so that was a real great encouragement for us, but it's also a real encouragement for us, I think, as a church, to look into how we can do online work well and not just engage the kids, but also engage the whole families. And in the same way, we've done the craft packs that we have sent and delivered out to primary children and to those that wanted it. We've essentially raided the church cupboards, and all the craft activities that we were meant to use over the last 5-6 months, we've just packed together in 3 different packs and then delivered them over the last couple of months to people who wanted them. Similar to Sarah, we've put in loads of different resources, loads of paper. We've encouraged them to do different things, whether that was bunting or hats or some popsicle people, and we've tried to connect that to some kind of a Bible story as well. And that's been really, really good as well. But I think I want to just focus a little bit on youth work and what I have been doing for young people, secondary age young people, because in a way that's my passion, in the way that's my emphasis here at the church as well. And as I've already said, right at the beginning of lockdown, there was a real desire for me to keep going with the things that are happening. And I was really keen to set up some kind of program that enabled the young people to check in every 2 to 3 days. So even within the first week of lockdown, we as a staff team, we said we want to do things very regularly for young people to see each other, to message each other, and to feel connected. And so what we kept going was the youth club that always happened on the Friday night. We would have around 25 to 30 people on the Friday. When we transitioned to Zoom, that went down a little bit, but we had between 15 to 20 young people every Friday. And we've done the typical Zoom games, whether that's Pictionary via the whiteboard. We played Empires. We've played countdown games, lots of different things. At the beginning of lockdown, I started with a list of writing down what game I've played at each session. And at the end, I ran out of space because I didn't anticipate it to last that long. But through our lockdown, we've also adapted some other games. So I thought I'd show them to you what some of our group's favorite games are. That's an absolute favorite of our group is Boulder Dash. I don't know whether you know that is a really simple game. It's an offline game. It's meant to be played offline with people around in a circle. But the idea of the game is that you've got several different categories, and you've always got different categories, and the person who leads the round has to read out the category, and then everyone has to come up with an answer. And essentially you go around the whole group, and the main point is to come up with potential answers that other people think is a real answer. And you get points depending on how many people think the answer that you've come up, which is a complete lie, is the actual correct answer. So it's quite an interesting game because you can play it without having to have a specific knowledge of a category. And it is a game that can turn silly in a really quick way. And it's a great game to laugh and to chat with each other. Another game that my group really loves is Chameleon. It's a very similar game that you have to say words, and depending on what word you say means that you get more points, and people think that you are the winner, but actually it's someone else. So it's, again, trying to come up with some clever answers that you can easily play over Zoom without having to be in one physical place, which has been really successful when we played that during Youth Club. We've also done fancy dress parties. We've done scavenger hunts. We have done quiz nights. Some more bigger things that we've planned were challenges where we asked the young people to go to their fridges. Obviously, we had to communicate that with parents beforehand. We had to get their permission. But essentially, the young people opened the fridges, and they've placed all the items that the parents didn't allow them to touch on the top shelf. And then another young person was allowed to take 5 different items out of the fridge. They had to mix them all together and then drink it. And that was an amazing challenge. The young people absolutely loved it. We came up with some very interesting combinations of, I can't actually remember what it was, but it looked awful. It tasted interesting. And it was an amazing challenge to just hang out one evening and just have a bit of fun together. We've also done a digital escape room together that I've come up with. So we've put them into different small breakout rooms, and they had to break into actually another Zoom call via different riddles and quizzes and categories, which was really, really good. We've done sleepovers. online, where we encourage young people to put out their tents in their own gardens. We've primed the parents at a specific time to bring in hot chocolate to the young people, and on a Friday evening we just connected via Zoom, just normal, but they were all sitting in their tents. We were playing some kind of camp themed games, and then at the end of the session had hot chocolate and marshmallows together. Again, just an opportunity to do things different, but with some kind of continuity and activities that they know work really well. So that's the Friday Night Youth Club. On a Sunday, I was really keen to start up a youth home group, which has actually been running twice before lockdown. And the idea was that we meet every 2 weeks as a discipleship group for secondary age young people for Bible study and food. And we quickly adapted that to a weekly activity on a Sunday evening, and have been reading through Luke and Acts together via the YouVersion Bible app. That's been really, really interesting, really good. They've got some incredible Bible plans that you can actually set so that other people can participate with you. And if you send out the link for that Bible plan, young people can, obviously they need the app as well, but they then can sign up and be part of that Bible plan together. And you can see who has read what when, and you can participate in a conversation within the app as well. So we love that. We really enjoyed that. What hasn't gone so well for us was trying to do Instagram and YouTube Live. At the beginning, we did that, and we essentially read the chapter online live and had a bit of a discussion and tried to do that. But that didn't work at all, so we stopped that and just engaged with the app. And then on a Sunday, we would just study the chapter that whatever came up on that day. And yeah, young people really enjoyed that. That was really great. We also utilized the breakout rooms quite a lot, that we would put young people into breakout rooms at 2 at a time. And we would actually do that quite frequently, that when we looked at a passage, we would then break out into pairs. They have 30 seconds or a minute to discuss a question, and then we would bring them back again. We would share. They would break out into new pairs, discuss, and then come back again, which enabled a bit more conversation than just listening to one person talking and engaging with the Bible study passage themselves. Another really interesting thing that we learned how to do properly was pray over Zoom as well. At the beginning, it was really awkward, and no one really wanted to pray, and we just sat there for 5 minutes, and none of the young people actually did pray out loud. But in the end, we came up with a really good system that now works well, where one person prays and at the end says the name of another person, and then they know it's their turn to pray. And they can either pray out loud or pray quietly, and whenever they think they're done, whether or not they have prayed, they just say the next person's name. Again, another really easy way of getting young people to pray, even within Zoom, which has worked quite well. So that was the youth home group on the Sunday. And then I've also set up a Zoom drop-in session on the Tuesday lunch for 2 hours, where essentially I was just there on Zoom and young people could pop in and leave again whenever they wanted. We played similar games to Friday. We chatted, we prayed together. If it was a Christian young people, we would just share disappointments and all sorts of other things, just an opportunity to catch up for those who really wanted to. And then obviously from Tuesday, there was another couple of break until Friday where they could come back and meet again with each other. In addition to those 3 groups, we've also set up a WhatsApp group for our young people. And at the beginning, that was a bit more difficult and maybe even controversial, because WhatsApp's got a 16 age limit. So you're not allowed, or theoretically, you're not allowed to use WhatsApp if you're under the age of 16. Quite a few of our young people are under 16. But we've actually found that at the moment, WhatsApp is the only way of communicating with young people, or with our young people. They don't do email, they don't do Facebook, they all do Snapchat. But as we know, that is even more difficult to safeguard. So actually, in communication with the parents of those particular young people, we've come up and said, actually, because they are already using WhatsApp, parents have given us permission as a church to communicate with them via WhatsApp. And that was really, really good. Because essentially all we've done is set up or 2 different WhatsApp groups, actually, for the Friday night and the Sunday night. And we've just encouraged them to chat with each other throughout the week. And sometimes it was just a random picture that popped up of someone, I don't know, going for a walk. and next day someone shared that their cat died, and everyone was pouring in, and they were chatting to each other, and they were encouraging each other, which was really, really good. We also did weekly challenges on that WhatsApp group. So we did a cooking challenge where they all had to cook something, and then they had to share their pictures, and we voted which one would look the best. We did photo challenges where every day we told them to take a picture of something different or of a theme, and then again we voted for the best picture at the end. We did an exercise challenge which turned out to be rather interesting for us leaders, and we still haven't done it properly, but our idea was fairly at the beginning of lockdown, where we wanted to encourage the young people to get out a little bit more, and we told them that the 20 odd young people that were in that group on that particular day should record themselves doing some kind of walking activity. So we all told them to download Strava or some kind of app that can record their activity. And then we promised them that the 3 leaders of that youth club would do the combined distance together in another day. And we thought, well, we've got 20 young people, I don't know, 15 will probably take part. If they all do 2-3 miles, that's going to be, 30, 40 miles, that's going to be fine, no worries at all. But they came back with 120 miles on that one day, and we were all a bit baffled. So we still have not done that challenge as a leader, and we're kind of hoping that they just forget. But they do bring it up continually, so we might just have to work out how we as a 3-leader group can somehow rack up a 120-mile challenge. But that's maybe still to come. We'll find out. But again, that was just an opportunity for young people to engage with each other throughout the week and have some kind of continuity. We've got maybe 5 minutes left. So I thought I'd just share a few things that I have learned over the last couple of months, as well as we were doing online youth work. And the first thing that I really have learned is that online youth work is possible. At the beginning, I was a bit skeptical, and I thought actually without seeing young people face to face, without having that intentional conversation, without having the opportunity of doing one-to-one chats as such, I thought it was going to be quite difficult. But what I found more than anything is actually the sense of community really grew. Every Friday at the beginning of the session, we would do a 10-15 minute catch-up time where every young person would share a story or something they have done throughout the week. And it's been really interesting to see how they as a group grew closer together. They weren't split up into their little friendship groups, and they didn't just communicate with their friends, but they were actually forced to listen to each other, and they were forced to hear what each other were doing. And I think that's been really interesting to see how they as young people, as a group, grew a lot closer together. And the same with the WhatsApp group, again, just to be able to communicate with young people throughout the week. I never had that opportunity when we were doing normal youth work, because I could see them on a Friday at youth club and on Sunday in church. But between Monday and Thursday, there was no way of communicating with them as such. But actually having that WhatsApp group, you could still be part of their lives, even if you didn't just message them every day, but you could hear and see what they were doing. And that was really, really good. Another thing that I found really interesting as well was that the way that youth work online highlights the extremes in a way. As I said, we had loads of people engage, but we had also quite a few young people who didn't engage at all. And I think that's something that we need to be aware of when and if we ever go back. That there will be young people who have been engaging with us for the last 6 months, and they have grown together as a group and they have formed some kind of unity. But I've got at least 5 or 6 young people who have never been at any kind of Zoom because of their anxieties within Zoom, because they don't enjoy connecting technologically. They might not be able to because of their internet speed. So loads of different factors. But I'm aware that they have now missed 6 months of a group forming. And I think that could potentially be quite difficult when we come back together again. In the same way of that I've got to know quite young people really, really well. So there's one young person in particular that has literally come to every single thing that we've put on. And again, others that I have not seen at all. And we've also figured out, or we've also found out, that in a way that youth work came in waves. When we first started Zoom, I would probably say 90% of our young people joined in with the activities. And after a month's time, we saw a real drop in numbers. Those have been quite consistent for a while. And then a month ago, at the end of June, we've seen another drop. And I think it just highlights again how young people get zoomed out or onlined out as well. I think there's a real desire now for young people to connect again physically. And yeah, it's a challenge for us to think about how we can do that. Over the last couple of weeks, I have been able to meet with young people face to face again in the park. So again, after lots of risk assessment and safeguarding work and trying to work out how to do it best, we've come up with a system where I can meet up to 5 young people in the park for 2 hours. So essentially we've taken the Tuesday Zoom drop-in into a Tuesday park drop-in, or not a drop-in, park session. And young people get specifically invited to be part of that group that week. And we can spend 2 hours together in the park playing some games, but chatting together. And then the week after, I would invite a different group of 5 young people to do that together. And yeah, so I guess the transition now, in the same way that we try to transition from face-to-face to online, is a challenge for us now to slowly, I think about how we can transition back to face-to-face. Despite the uncertainty of whether there is a second wave or whether we will go back to lockdown or whether we can't meet, I think young people are at a point now where they struggle. And we've heard about Kuth, but what Tina highlighted as well, the anxieties and the issues arising at home where young people weren't able to leave those settings. I think it's at a point now where they just long to be somewhere else and long to meet people in a physical setting again.